Welcome to Hannity. Tonight we are tracking multiple developing stories, including Dr. Fauci's pathetic meltdown on Capitol Hill today. We'll play all the lowlights of that coming up, and Senator Ted Cruz will join us with a more chilling story about the FBI in January the 6th. Earlier today, he just brutalized an FBI spokesperson. We'll play you that tape. But first, we begin with Democratic activist Stacey Abrams. As you all know, Stacey Abrams still believes that she is the rightful governor of Georgia, that she thinks she won in 2018 after losing, well, by nearly 2 points in Georgia's gubernatorial race. She never conceded, claiming voter suppression despite no evidence. And now she's running for what she believes is her re-election. And naturally, the Democrats' so-called voting rights legislation is one of her top issues. But today, when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made a special trip to Stacey Abrams' hometown to tout this new legislation, Stacey Abrams was nowhere to be found. Apparently, it was some kind of scheduling conflict. That's what we'll call it. Take a look.
Stacey Abrams skipping your speech today, sir? Are you insulted she's skipping the speech?
I'm insulted you asked the question. I spoke with Stacey this morning. We have a great relationship. We got our scheduling mixed up. I've talked with her at length this morning. We're all on the same page, and everything's fine.
Okay, pretty humiliating, a scheduling conflict. Now, is it perhaps that Joe Biden's poll numbers are so bad, Stacey Abrams refused to appear with the president and vice president of the United States or even meet with him behind closed doors and can't even be bothered to come up with a halfway, well, decent excuse? This is a pretty low point for Joe and Kamala, who are officially now toxic, even among members in their own party. Make no mistake, Biden's so-called voting rights legislation is also incredibly toxic and unconstitutional. Now, this bill, which would federalize elections, enables Democrats in Washington to ban voter ID, clear the way for ballot harvesting, and for illegal immigrants to participate in elections. You don't believe me? Look at New York City just this week. They gave the right of illegal immigrants to vote in municipal elections in New York City. Now, top Democrats are so passionate about the bill because they believe it is their surefire way to stay in power in perpetuity. In other words, just like their court packing idea, just like their ending of the filibuster idea, just like D.C. statehood, Puerto Rico statehood idea, it's all about a power grab and all about rigging the system. It doesn't have anything to do with actual voting rights, and that's why Joe was in Georgia and not Joe's home state of Delaware, where voting regulations in his state, where he served 575,000 years, are far more restrictive, and Georgia's laws are some of the most accessible voting laws in the country. They have 17 days in-person early voting. They have drop boxes in every precinct. You don't need an excuse to get an absentee or mail-in ballot. You need a mail-in ballot reason in Delaware. There are no drop boxes, no in-person early voting, and both states require voter ID. So why aren't they going after Delaware? Why hasn't Joe lifted a finger all these years to make voting more accessible in his home state? Now, today, during his big speech, Joe was very, well, as usual, confused. He referred to Kamala Harris as President Harris. Apparently, Joe believes he was arrested while marching for civil rights in the 1960s. Little fact check, that never happened. Take a look.
Last week, President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol to observe one of those before and after moments in American history. I did not walk in the shoes of generations of students who walked these grounds, but I walked other grounds because I'm so damn old I was there as well. They think I'm kidding, man. Seems like yesterday, the first time I got arrested. Anyway.
Never happened. For the record, while millions did in fact risk their lives and march for civil rights many decades ago, and Lyndon Johnson required the help of the Republicans to pass the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, Joe Biden, he was busy trying to stop the integration of public schools when he partnered with the former Klansman, Robert KKK Byrd. And as Joe put it, he was worried that public schools, that his children would grow up in schools that were racial jungles. Joe said that. Now, according to Joe, if you don't support his federal election takeover, you are a domestic enemy of the United States who sides with Jefferson Davis and the Ku Klux Klan. Well, he must know a lot about it. He was best friends with the former Klansman. Take a look.
I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic. And the question is, where will the institution of the United States Senate stand?
Keep in mind the so-called voting rights bill is so blatantly unconstitutional it will never pass the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. So in order for that legislation to become law, Democrats, now led by Biden, who said he would never do it, just like he said the vaccine will protect you from getting COVID, and just like he said a lot of other things that he reneged on, well, that would need the nuke of the filibuster. In other words, getting rid of the filibuster and completely upend the rules of the Senate forever. According to them, the filibuster is racist and a relic of segregation. Now, the very same filibusters that his party used a whopping 328 times in 2020, which actually Joe thinks it's 2020 now, but in the real 2020. Now, the very same filibuster that Democrats passionately defended for years. Let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we?
Speaking of those other candidates, several of them have proposed major structural reforms to our government and to our democracy. These include abolishing the Electoral College, expanding the size of the Supreme Court, setting term limits for justices, abolishing the legislative filibuster. Which, if any of these, do you support?
None.
What the filibuster does, what the extended debate does, is to force both sides of the aisle to come together in a bipartisan, compromising way.
They want, because they can't get their way on every judge, to change the rules in midstream, to wash away 200 years of history. They want to make this country into a banana republic, where if you don't get your way, you change the rules.
Chucky wants to turn America into a banana republic. Now, there are only 2 Senate Democrats still in favor of the filibuster. That's Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who the Washington Post worried was stubbornly opposed to eliminating it. Now, are they racist, Joe Biden? Are they your domestic enemies? Will they be investigated by your Department of Justice and their brand new unit on domestic terrorism? Or is that unit only for parents protesting school boards? They're very dangerous. And breaking tonight, Biden's education secretary is now facing calls to resign after reports that he requested an official letter from the National School Board Association comparing those parents that care about their kids, that go to school board meetings, which have to be boring as hell, to terrorists. Or will the domestic terror unit be squarely focused on those that participated in the January 6th riot? Now, by the way, there were riots in the summer of 2020. What about groups that chant, "What do we want dead cops? When do we want them now?" Would we investigate them? Today, Senator Ted Cruz, he asked the FBI very important questions about that day. Their answers, or lack thereof, are very telling. Take a look.
How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sandburn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.